Afternoon, and thanks for presenting here today. I'm just going to focus first on the UK Nationality and Border Act and the electronic travel authorisation. I mean, I just feel this could have a real and negative effect on communities living along the border in particular, but anyone crossing the border, bar obviously Irish and British citizens. So for example, I live in Cavan, so someone from Poland or Lithuania who's living there could potentially need permission just to go into Fermanagh to visit a family member. It's going to affect people who work on one side of the border and live on the other. It's going to affect people going shopping, it's going to affect tourism. I think it's simply ludicrous, and it's effectively creating a hard border on the potential of creating a hard border on the island of Ireland. So you've pointed to the potential for racial profiling on buses crossing the border, and is particularly concerning. Do you have figures or research on the prevalence of these checks and how these checks have been selective along racial lines? And if you could share that with the committee? I know you talked to the PSNI and the Gardaí, so it's just even to share, you know, how relevant or how frequent it is.
Well, IREC did not engage with PSNI. I don't know if the other two commissions have. We engaged with the Policing Authority and the Garda Commissioner here, Drew Harris, raising these concerns. And I know that I think some of the other witnesses appearing before this committee also spoke about this issue, the CAJ, I think, back in February of this year. And as yet, that is the evidence that we have. It is anecdotal through our civil society representatives like the CAJ and ICCL. That's the reports that we're getting, is through them. So we don't have any data or evidence. When we engaged with, so we first engaged with the Policing Authority, given that they are the body that holds the An Garda Síochána to account, and they did so in public meetings. We then followed up with the Garda Commissioner to get more detail on it, and I'll read for you from the letter we received in response. Where a vehicle is stopped for the purpose of an immigration check, all passengers are checked for identification sufficient to establish their identity and nationality. In cases where a passenger is identified to be Irish, UK or other EU national, no further action is taken. So that is the set policy that we have received from An Garda Síochána. I think this speaks to our broader concerns around the potential for racial profiling from our police service and the lack of disaggregated data gathered by An Garda Síochána, which would allow us to identify that that doesn't exist. And I think in today's world, where we know that racial profiling is a symptom of well-meaning police services and police forces across the globe, I think we should be starting from the point that there is the potential for racial profiling and gathering evidence to disprove it. So this is only one of the areas in which this is an issue that we engage with An Garda Síochána on the potential for racial profiling. And I would like to comment and add, I suppose, that I mean, many of us have, and I think largely the population has huge respect for a police service that offers us a great service and has done particularly through these COVID years. But my engagement directly with particularly ethnic minority groups is that that is not shared with everybody, and some communities feel over-policed and some communities do feel that they are subject to racial profiling. So we need to see better engagement on this, and that's my concern. To your comments around the ETA and the potential for, I suppose, what feels to many like a hard border in anything but name, I think that is certainly what we heard when we had direct engagement with those border communities. And it was a real eye-opener, I have to say, for me, hearing directly from, there was a really excellent speaker from one of the women's networks who talked about how when you're on a border, you kind of feel already pushed towards the margins, and that anything that really hardens that border is going to be hugely impactful on those communities. And you gave us an example there, which I think is exactly the type of example we're concerned about, where somebody at the moment has daily access across the border, and that is now going to be brought into question if every time they wished to cross that border they would have to fill in an application form to do so. There are 30,000 journeys made across the border every day. So I think it's exactly those things: services, employment, education, and just simply family visits. I mean, at the moment what we have is a situation which we all enjoy, which means that those communities are not affected by the border, and what we want to prevent, as is the commitment within the protocol, is that is maintained. And I'll just see if anybody else wants to jump in.
Just to add to Sinead's comments, we at the Equality Commission have in the past assisted some cases where there were allegations of racial profiling and discrimination, and successfully took cases against the Home Office in relation to that. It wasn't as part of the land border, but it was at Belfast City Airport and at Stena. Now, we do not have any evidence other than anecdotal evidence of racial profiling taking place at the border. But we are concerned about it, and we have raised the issue with the Home Office. And we did raise that in the context not just of Article 2 and the electronic travel authorisation, but also in terms of the common travel area and the guidance that's been issued. So we've received correspondence back from the Home Office where they state that currently there is no immigration control on the border. That is the position that they hold, but it's something that we're continuing to keep under observation and monitor it, particularly as the actual regulations are being developed to be rolled out in terms of the Nationality and Borders Bill. But we're very conscious of the concerns of border communities, and particularly ethnic minorities, in relation to that. But I think Alison is our key expert on that as well.